What's up, people? It's your girl Adeola 419. Hey, Nigerian government doing yahoo. You know, hey, we are not stupid, Dina. How can the petroleum minister say that Nigeria will continue to import petroleum products for the next 20 years? 20. This is a federal scam. She said because we don't have enough refineries and the ones that we have are not operating at full capacities. She said we will continue to import petrol and all petroleum products, kerosene, diesel, everything for the next 20 years. 2 decades to come. The devil is a liar. Of all the OPEC countries, you know that Nigeria is the only country that imports its refined oil? Yeah, we are the only one. We only have 3 refineries, and all 3 refineries used to work, by the way, at full capacity. In the 80s, we were exporting refined oil at that time. What happened now? That all of a sudden, our refinery stopped working. And just imagine, one of the largest oil exporters, so we now sell to people who have refineries in their countries, and we buy back 90% of our refined oil at very, very high price. We don't even ask about, other petroleum products like Vaseline, candles, everything else that they make from our crude oil. We don't even ask them about that. On top of that, we face fuel scarcity every so often, queuing in line for hours and hours to buy fuel. Many countries that buy crude oil from us have more refineries than we do, and some of them don't even produce crude oil. Algeria has 5, Libya has 5, South Africa is not an oil producing country yet. They have 6 refineries. Malaysia has 7 refineries. Egypt has 9. Iran has 9. Iraq has 11. Saudi Arabia has 11 refineries. The US that buys crude oil from us, they have 142 refineries. And 139 of them are in full operation. You know that Nigeria's population is half of that of the US. Yet we have 3 refineries and they are not working at full capacity. Texas alone has about 30 refineries. That is just one state, my people. One state with 26 million people. We are 170 million and we have 3 refineries. And when you check the size of the capacities of some of those refineries in Texas, my people, your jaw will drop compared to the size and the capacities of the ones that we have in Nigeria. The right thing for the Nigerian government to do is to renovate our existing 3 refineries so that they can operate at full capacity and build us new ones. That way they would create jobs for thousands of people and our oil will become very, very affordable in Nigeria. We'll actually enjoy the benefits of being an oil producing country because right now we are not enjoying it. Instead, they want us to be importing for another 20 years. I know that some people have tried to build refineries in Nigeria. I know that Aliko Dangote is trying to build one, but I also know of some people who tried to build refinery and the government refused. Obasanjo during his time tried to rebuild the refineries at one time, and one of the people awarded the contract was Sir Emeka Ofo. Remember, I've talked about him before. That man spent the billions of naira he was paid without ever completing the project. Yes, about 3 billion naira. And then Obasanjo sold the refineries to Dangote, Adeola, Adenuga at very, very cheap price. Can you imagine that? And Yar'Adua took it back and said, no, this belongs to the country. But since then, every year, they will say that they are spending billions of naira renovating our refineries. Still, till today, they are not operating at full capacity. Where is the money going now? Niger, where you see the 419, see the scam right there. You see why I say that the Nigerian government is doing yahoo. But have you guys ever wondered why the Nigerian government is not eager to fix our refineries or make it a priority? Well, first of all, there will be conflict of interest. Yes, so because those that are importing fuel to sell to NNPC and to filling stations, those ones would no longer make their money. We call them oil marketers, and many of them are, friends with the ogas at the top. Yes. For example, Mr. Femi Otedola is one of the largest importers of oil in Nigeria. He is very good friends with the presidency. Even last year, Otedola came with Mr. President to New York. I saw him with my koro eyes. So why would the government want to fix the refineries when it would mean bad business for, someone like Otedola? You get what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if the rest of you have to pay so much money for fuel. In fact, the more you pay, the richer the man gets. And it's not just him now. There's a long list of all these oil marketers. Mr. Wale Tinubu, Alhaji Idris Dantata, Peter Mba, Mike Adenuga, Patrick Uba. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a booming business. In 2006, there were only 5 importers. By 2007, they had multiplied to 10. By 2008, we had 19 importers. And by 2011, the number had escalated to 140 oil marketers in Nigeria. They are making big money, big money. Oh, by the way, just so you know, many of these rich people are also sponsoring Mr. President's re-election. Yes, he needs their money. I'm not implying anything, God forbid. Another thing is, what happened to the subsidies scam, by the way? I mean, for years, the Nigerian government claimed to be subsidizing the price of fuel. That means that the government was paying the rich marketers a lot of money so that we would be able to buy fuel at lower price. Now, the scam was finding out that the government was paying for about 59 million liters per day. 59 million. Meanwhile, Nigerians only consume 35 million liters per day. That means that we couldn't account for 24 million liters of oil per day. So $6.8 billion disappeared between the oil marketers and NNPC in 3 years of subsidy. So many people believe that the marketers were selling the excess oil to other countries. Me, I don't know. Which was why they took the implicated marketers to court. Remember, that was when Mr. Adeola was able to bribe his way out with $600,000, you know, given to Mr. Farouk Lawan. Yes, but till today, nobody knows the outcome of the subsidy scam. No one was successfully prosecuted, and we, the common people, continue to buy fuel at a high price. And because NNPC is not accountable to anyone, despite owing the government about 704 billion naira for various violations of the subsidy scheme, well, Nigeria essentially has no savings, which is why last week, Madam Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the finance minister, said that the money in the treasury could only last us for the next 3 months. After 3 months, there is nothing else unless we borrow another $5 billion. But you know, we won't talk about that today. Yes, borrow. So we won't fix the refineries because the subsidy scam would have to be readdressed. Oh, by the way, you know, they said they removed subsidy in order to develop infrastructure. I mean, they didn't develop infrastructure. Well, they painted the airports, yeah. And by the way, they actually did not remove that oil subsidy. In reality, they actually increased the subsidy. The government has continued to budget subsidy in their annual budget. This year, 2014, they budgeted 900 and something billion naira for subsidy. But of course, they always exceed their budget for subsidy. Like this year, they've already spent about 2 trillion naira. Already, they've released their subsidy budget for next year. Another reason that the government has refused to fix our refineries is that apart from using fuel to keep our cars running, Nigerians spend about 796 billion naira every year on fuel to power generators. Yeah, so that is more than $4 billion just to fuel our generators. Can you imagine? As you know, about 60 million Nigerians now have power generators. 60 million. And I know that many people have 2 or 3 generators so that they can rotate them around the clock. I'm saying that the number of generators we have in Nigeria today is more than the population of Canada and Ghana put together. Yeah, so now if the refineries are fixed, the marketers won't be making that much money that they are making from fueling our generators, because petrol would be much cheaper. You get what I'm saying? By the way, all these things are connected with why they've refused to fix our electricity. Generator marketers are also friends with the ogas at the top. If they fix our electricity, those people that are marketing generators would go out of business. So it's not that they can't fix our electricity. It's all about protecting the interest of your friends. You get what I'm saying? Thank you. So instead of telling us to keep importing oil for the next 20 years, why not invest in alternatives to fuel? We live right on the equator with plenty of sun. We shouldn't focus only on oil. The rest of the world is diving into solar power, hydrogen, natural gas, just to name a few. Just so you guys know, Nigeria possesses the largest natural gas reserve in all of Africa. And we have the 8th largest natural gas reserve in the whole world. Yeah, but we flare our gas, you know, but that is a topic for another day. They would rather protect the interest of their friends. This is why I say that the Nigerian government is doing yahoo yahoo. They are scamming us. But that is if we let them. It's time that we, the people, invest in solar power. If the government has refused to, already some young people are creating cars that don't use fuel. Most people just laugh at them. I don't think we should laugh at them. I think we need to start taking them seriously. If only some wealthy people would invest in these young people and create alternatives, we won't have to suck up to the gas at the top for the next 20 years. 20 years! But you know, if we don't do anything well, we will all endure the high price and fuel scarcity for another 2 decades. We could know how to adjust in Nigeria. This is not the first time, But you guys know that I don't know anything. Wait to be my own. I'm just keeping it real. Moving on to Burkina Faso. Yes, please give it up for my Burkinabe people. Yes, for taking down a dictator that was in power for 27 years. And he left the country worse than it was when he took over. You know that Blaise Compore tried to change the constitution in order to extend his rule? Hey, the people said no, enough is enough. About 1 million of them showed up for protest, including women, old and young. Honestly, I give kudos to the women. I tell you, never ever, never underestimate women with wooden spoons. You know, do well, Jare, my people. You see, this is how you do it. I've been telling people this is how you do it. Those are the kind of spoons that they use for karate. You get what I'm saying? Those are the kinds of spoons that kick out dictators. We need spoons like that in Nigeria. For days, everybody protested. They said enough is enough. They refused to compromise. The labor union also did not sell out, unlike labor unions in some countries. By the way, whatever happened to the labor union in Nigeria? I've not heard about them in a long time. They didn't even protest the missing Chibok girls. Now, wow, don't chop and claim out. That is God. But you know, not in Burkina Faso. These people did not compromise. They stood their ground in the face of tear gas. In fact, more than 15 protesters were killed. Yet, these people did not relent. They set the parliament building on fire. While the president was having a meeting trying to change the constitution, they set the thing on fire. They also set the homes of some of their senior officials on fire in Ouagadougou, that is the capital. The president fled, and he should be glad that he fled alive. Yeah, so hopefully though, and this is the most important thing, I hope that the new president will do well by the people, because what is the essence of having a revolution if there is no real change? So hopefully the new president will do well by the people. And you know, this is a major breakthrough for Burkina Faso, considering the fact that more than 60% of the 17 million population of Burkina Faso is under the age of 25. So those people, 60%, they've never known any other president other than Compore. Now, if you're wondering why I'm so excited that they finally got rid of Compore, well, let me remind you that Compore was the one that got rid of one of the best, if not the very best president that Africa has ever had, Thomas Sankara. May he so rest in peace. Sankara took over power at the age of 33 after a bloodless military coup. The first thing that Sankara did was to reduce the salaries of all the ministers and all public officials, including his own salary. He took away their luxurious cars, Mercedes-Benz at the time, and he made them drive regular cars. He himself was driving, what do you call this thing? Okay, that was what he was driving. Anyway, no more first class. All officials had to fly economy. Not a single special preference was left for these officials. He put an end to colonial taxes and embedded in his people to stand against colonial mentality. He took care of food, he took care of housing, he took care of healthcare for his people. At that time, several African countries were dealing with disease epidemics, but not in Burkina Faso, because he provided vaccines for polio, measles, and meningitis. In 1 week alone, 2.5 million people were vaccinated. His government was the first African government to publicly recognize the AIDS epidemic as a major threat to Africa. He was also one of the first head of states in the whole world to promote women's rights. Yes, the very first African leader to appoint women to major cabinet positions. Take a look.
Ce qui veut dire que nous devons donner à chaque femme un emploi. Nous devons donner à chaque femme le moyen de gagner honnêtement et dignement sa vie.
He creates a real shock by being one of the first heads of state in the world to promote women's rights.
You guys can watch that documentary on YouTube. It's a wonderful documentary about the life of Thomas Sankara. Yes, he stood against forced marriages, underage marriages, or even expelling women from school if they got pregnant. He was like, if you have to expel the girl, what about the boy that got her pregnant? I was like, God bless you, my brother. She didn't do it by herself now. Thank you, Jare. In fact, when it was Women's Day, Sankara announced that women all over the country should not go to the market that day to buy anything, that their men should do all the shopping, and that they should let all the women rest that day because it's Women's Day. And you know, the men also enjoyed it. For the first time, many of them got to know the price of pepper, the price of okra. They actually appreciated their wives more after that experience, and the story was reported all over the world. Also, men were no longer allowed to beat their wives. He also instituted mass sporting activities. Everybody had to become active and participate in sports in order to keep fit and healthy. That was Sankara playing basketball, you know, people were riding bicycles, and he had a campaign then that healthy body and healthy mind would reduce diseases. He also took environmental issues very seriously and insisted that they plant 1 million trees in order to encourage reforestation. God knows that we need that right now in so many places in northern Nigeria. He also constructed vast roads and railways and connected all the major cities together. At that time, they didn't have much money in Burkina Faso, but instead of relying on foreign aid, he told everybody to take part, and people were so glad to take part in building the railways and the roads. He actually discouraged his people from relying and depending solely on foreign aid. He also insisted that Burkinabe produce their own goods, and everybody, including officials, had to patronize Burkinabe products. Yeah, so clothes, food, everything, all made in Burkina Faso. They were producing their own food, wheat, and he facilitated good irrigation and fertilization programs.
Nourrir. Nous pouvons dépasser même notre production, malheureusement. Par manque d'organisation, nous sommes encore obligés de tendre la main pour demander des aides alimentaires. Installe dans nos esprits ces réflexes de mendiants, d'assister. Produire plus parce que il est normal que celui qui vous donne à manger vous dicte également.
People started seeing made in Burkina Faso products just within 4 years that he was president. And in less than 4 years that he was in power, Burkina Faso, that used to be very poor, this same Burkina Faso became food self-sufficient. I'm telling you, it was a major revolution at that time. Corrupt officials were tried in court, and the funny thing was, no lawyer was allowed to represent them. So you had to prove yourself guilty or not guilty in front of everybody, and it was televised. So a lot of people were disgraced by this approach because they were not allowed to pay lawyers to represent or defend them. So many people criticized this approach though as a violation of human rights. Now, at the OAU summit that time, Sankara even challenged other African leaders to stop relying on the West or the East. Listen to him.
Nous avons suffisamment de bras et nous avons un marché immense, très vaste, du nord au sud, de l'est à l'ouest. Nous avons suffisamment de capacités intellectuelles pour créer, ou tout au moins prendre la technologie et la science partout où nous pourrons les trouver. Produire en Afrique, transformer en Afrique et consommer en Afrique. Produisons ce dont nous avons besoin et consommons ce que nous produisons au lieu d'importer. Le Burkina Faso est venu vous exposer ici la cotonnade produite au Burkina Faso, tissée au Burkina Faso, cousue au Burkina Faso pour habiller les Burkinabés. Ma délégation et moi-même, nous sommes habillés par nos tisserands, nos paysans. Il n'y a pas un seul fil qui vienne de l'Europe ou de l'Amérique.
And he was only like 33, 34. Just imagine that. By the way, Burkina Faso was named the Republic of Upper Volta at that time by the French, yeah, the colonial masters. Sankara was the one that renamed it as a Burkina Faso, which means the land of upright men. He also commissioned several housing projects for the less privileged, and he was out among his people, always, you know, relating with people. He was not untouchable. You know how nowadays our leaders in Africa, they have this long convoy following them, and everybody has to get out of the way. No, Sankara was never like that. He related with anybody and everybody. This man took Burkina Faso out of misery in less than 4 years. Less than 4 years. Of course, the French, yeah, did not like that they were losing grip of their former colony because he stopped borrowing money and he stopped relying on their foreign aid. And they wanted to make sure that other African countries don't follow his footsteps. You get what I'm saying? In fact, all those that were benefiting from Africa's underdevelopment at that time, they were not happy to see Burkina Faso rising, becoming self-dependent. So guess what they did? They sponsored his very best friend from childhood to overthrow him. I'm talking about Blaise Compore, the same man that has ruled Burkina Faso for the last 27 years. So on October 15th, 1987, Sankara was killed by Compore's armed men. How ironic that Blaise himself was overthrown in the month of October. Just imagine what a coincidence. Compore's men killed Sankara, and 12 other officials with a shower of bullets that dismembered Sankara's body completely. So they hurried and buried him in an unmarked grave, you know, like a goat. There was no ceremony for Sankara's burial. They treated him like an animal. His wife and 2 children had to flee the country, and Compore immediately reversed nearly all of Sankara's policies. He was never repentant, by the way. He actually pretended that he was not the one behind the whole thing. The only thing he said was that, well, Sankara had jeopardized foreign relations with former colonial masters in France. I was like, what? That's the reason for you to kill the guy? Compore rejoined the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and he went right back to being a puppet in the hands of France. And once again, what would have led to true self-dependency and freedom in Africa was quenched by this man. You know, the question is, would we learn a lesson from Burkina Faso? I mean, all the African countries where corruption is being celebrated today, can we learn from the Burkinabes? All the countries that have dictators in power, when will you guys have your own revolution? But you know, as much as I admire Thomas Sankara, the man whose legacy will never die, you know, it actually reminds me of the fact that in Africa, we kill those we should celebrate, and we celebrate those we should get rid of. The sad thing is, we never really appreciate those that are advocating for change until they are gone. To be honest, not many Nigerians celebrated Fela Anikulapo Kuti when he was alive. No, not many people celebrated him at that time. When would we learn to recognize great minds, you know, before they die or before they are killed? People like Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, Ediado Modlane, Amilcar Cabral, Steve Biko, Samora Machel, and of course, John Garang. You know, it's very sad because many of our children don't even know who these people are. Anyway, congratulations to my people in Burkina Faso. Wishing you guys all the best. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real. Speaking of president, it's very sad that the president of Zambia, Michael Sata, passed away last week. Please accept my deepest condolences, the people of Zambia. May his soul rest in peace. His vice president, Guy Scott, is now the interim president. Yes, he's a white guy, and we'll talk about that. But before we talk about that, while I sympathize with the family of Sata, I keep asking myself when African presidents will see it as a necessity to build good hospitals of the international standard in their own countries, where they themselves and their family members can be treated. Because to be honest, I don't know why an African president should die in a London hospital if they have good hospital of international standard in Zambia and he decides to go abroad for treatment. That is a different story. These African presidents don't build good hospitals for their people, so they themselves don't have a place to go in their own country. They all fly to the US or Europe or the United Arab Emirates for treatment. It's pathetic. You could die on the way to London. I wish this president would ask themselves, if I should collapse today, which hospital can they take me to in my country? But they don't think like that. As I was saying, the vice president is now the interim president and is the first white president sworn in by Africans. What I don't like though is that the Zambian constitution says that the man cannot be an elected president because he's not fully Zambian. I'm like, what is fully Zambian? The man was born and raised in Zambia, but because his parents were not, he cannot be elected president. Like, really? If they did that in America, Barack Obama would not be president today. His father was Kenyan, Haba. But because Obama was born in America, he's fully American, and now he's the president of America. How would we like it if they say that, oh, you can't be American president because you are not fully American, your father is Nigerian? I just imagine that. We won't like it now. And you know, the guy is actually known for some really good policies, but would we ever know? And I had so many people saying having a white president is taking us back to colonization. I can understand where you're coming from and I fully acknowledge your stand. But this man is Zambian. He was born and raised in Zambia. He's been part of the Zambian politics for several years. It's not like some colonial master coming to rule over the people. It's because he was doing so well that they made him vice president in the first place. So to me, that is discrimination because he's white. My only issue though with the man is him wearing skirt and blouse. I mean, I know it's a Scottish tradition, yet it's a little extreme mainstream for the African mind. You get what I'm saying? My brother, this is not how you do it. Next time, make sure you put on some heels. You don't wear skirt and blouse like this and then wear this kind of shoes. This is a fashion crime. You need to put on some heels, not more than 3 inches. Don't come out like this next time. It's just being a Scottish man. Well, congratulations. And guess what? I'm just keeping it real. Before I leave today, I like to read some of your emails, and the first one is from Kehinde Ligali, and this person says, "Hi Adeola, I have a request that I will appreciate if you can help out with. I'm a part of the African Student Association at Indiana University, and on November 8th, we will be having our annual benefit dinner. This is a fundraising event where we would raise funds for non-profit organizations in Africa. This year, we are fundraising for the Suku Foundation. It is an elementary school located in Ghana. This organization is essentially trying to provide students in a village in Cape Coast, Ghana, with access to a solid quality education that they might otherwise not be able to have. The foundation has several projects that is currently working on, such as building fences around the school, as well as starting an activity to help support the community's villagers. Can you kindly make this announcement that if anyone is interested in making donations or wants to find out more about the organization, that they should please visit our website or our Facebook page. Thank you so much." Well, thank you so much for sending the email. For anybody that lives in Indiana, I'm hoping that you guys will show some love and some support. They're doing a wonderful job. I checked out their website and their Facebook page. I think you should. And you don't even have to live in Indiana. You can make your own donations online. Please visit their website. These are Africans doing good things, and I think we should encourage them and let them know that we're in full support. And our last email is from Hajara Ahmed, and she says, "Hi Adeola, please find attached the picture of my daughter. She just turned 9 years old and she loves watching your show, Keeping It Real." Oh, really? Thank you. Her name is Naima Sese, and she was born on October 28th. She loves watching your show. Thank you so much, Naima. Happy birthday. Everybody, this is Naima. She just turned 9 and she watches Keeping It Real. How do you understand some of the things I talk about? It's amazing when parents tell me that their children are watching the show, and I'm like, okay, it's politics. How do they understand it? But you know, it makes me so glad that they can follow what I'm talking about. Thank you so much, Naima. Happy birthday to you one more time. All right, guys, that's all the time that I have for emails today. Please keep sending your emails to adeola.keepingitreal@gmail.com. All right, y'all, it's been real, and I'm keeping it real right up in here. Until next week, I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out.